Welcome to Universal Design for Learning using Google Chrome tips and tricks. My name is Denise Hernandez. I'm a program specialist with the North Coastal Consortium for Special Education, and I'm here with my colleague.
And I'm Jeff Adams, and I also do assistive technology for Nixie with Denise.
All right, and so before we get started, just a couple housekeeping things. Jeff has added a few links to the chat box. If for some reason you're not able to click on those links, you can copy and paste them into a new tab. Some folks have been having difficulty with it showing up as a hyperlink on their end. So if that happens, it does work. You just need to copy and paste it. So the first link is a link to our handout. And it's not a typical handout because we use our handouts more as resources. So on the handout, the first thing you'll notice is when you click the link to the handout, it's going to prompt you to save a copy to your own device. And the reason we did that is so that you can save a copy on your device and mark it up and add things, notes to things that you want to refer back to. Because what we'll go through today will be a lot of tools and tips, but don't feel like you have to memorize everything. Maybe listen or out for one or two that stand out to you and you feel comfortable using tomorrow or the next day. But we do provide this handout as a resource so that if you hear something and you're not quite ready to mess with it yet, you can always refer back to this handout. And the handout has hyperlinks that you can click on, and it will take you to more information about that tool, or it will take you directly to that tool. And in some cases, it will take you directly to the Chrome Web Store where you can add that tool. So if you scroll all the way down, you'll see that there's a section for you to type notes and ideas. And, you know, we've included a photo representation as well as the name of what the tool, or as well as the name of the category of the tool. And you can just click on the right-hand side and add your own ideas and notes. So that is the handout. If you're having difficulty with the handout, please let us know in chat. For example, if you're not able to download a copy of the handout based on the link we sent, like to make your own copy, we can just send you a regular copy of the handout. Okay, the next link that is in your chat is a link to the actual presentation that we'll be going through, and that link is also at the top of your handout just in case you lose it. And finally, the third link is a link to a spreadsheet where we can add tools that we use that we may not have seen on this list. So as we're going through the presentation, if you think of something that you use that would be beneficial for your colleagues to also know about, please feel free to click on that link and add it directly to the spreadsheet. If you don't feel comfortable with doing that, no worries. You can just add the name of the tool and how you use it into the chat box. Last year when we did this, it was pretty successful and we got quite a few people that added to the spreadsheet, and I learned a bunch of tools I did not know about. So sharing is caring. So please share if you're comfortable doing so. Okay. So we'd like to start the presentation with a quote from the people that did the research and brought us the framework for universal design for learning. And it says, a successful learning environment supports and challenges students while minimizing barriers. And because no two students show the same patterns of strength, weakness, and preference, minimizing barriers requires highly flexible teaching strategies and materials. So if you were with us in our previous session, the first two slides are going to look familiar, but we think it's important to start this way to get our mind ready to receive the information that's going to be shared in a way that's going to help us to support our students with barriers. And the word barriers, when you hear that word, we're talking about things that get in the way of a student being able to show what they're able to do, being able to show their strengths, because barriers can pose and create weaknesses. And so you can have a barrier for many reasons. Maybe there's a learning disability that creates a barrier for one aspect of the learning process, or you're an English language learner and language and vocabulary might be a barrier that gets in the way. And there's tons of other examples. But we'll use the term barriers quite a bit. But the whole goal of this presentation is to provide ways on how you can minimize those barriers. And yes, it says it requires flexible teaching strategies and materials, but by no means is that saying you have to throw everything away that you've been doing and start over from scratch. What we're going to show you is how you can embed tools that help minimize barriers within your existing workflow, within what you're already doing. So when addressing potential barriers, we're all pretty much familiar with the commonly used tools, text-to-speech and speech-to-text, where you can type with your voice, because they're available to students now, for any student. But the problem is with those tools, they don't address all the barriers that could happen. And we're not saying we want to create like 30 different lesson plans to address everybody's individual barrier. So what's an easier way to do that? Well, it's to provide multiple means of representation, expression, and engagement so that we tackle any possible barrier that could pop up. It's already taken care of. So text-to-speech takes care of, for most students, if they're having difficulties with decoding and reading fluency, they're not able to comprehend. So taking that away, now comprehension is no longer a barrier because text-to-speech supports that. Voice typing. If a student has difficulty with fine motor difficulties, pencil, pen writing, handwriting, keyboarding, typing, because their visual motor integration is off, that's a barrier. And then also on top of that, if they have difficulty with spelling, typing, writing, any of that, would still not be able to get them to show what they have learned or know. But voice typing comes in, and them using their voice gets rid of all of those barriers. So that works for most kids, or some kids. But then we have other kids that have different types of barriers on top of that. And those are the students we want to make sure we don't leave behind, because there are students that can't even get to the writing or the reading activity because visually the computer is looking at the computer is a barrier. The colors, the color contrast gets in the way. It's not large enough. The text on the screen isn't large enough. Attention, things that pop up on the screen makes it so difficult to attend to what the task they're supposed to do. Articulation, if you have difficulty with articulating, voice typing isn't going to help at all. And voice typing won't help at all if you don't know how to follow the writing process, the brainstorming or organization, and the grammar. So all of this comes into play, and so we want to take the time to talk about tools that could potentially address more of these barriers. And so since we're in distance or online learning, as we go through the presentation, we ask that you consider how will you share information with your students? Using what tools to help remove some of those barriers that get in the way of them accessing that information, and how will students be able to share that information with you? So how will they demonstrate what they've learned, also removing barriers that get in the way for them to do so? And we're going to use tools that you already have access to and may have heard about them or are somewhat familiar, but we're going to show you how to do it as part of what you're currently doing, your existing workflow. So we're using this graphic as a reminder to start with existing learning goals. And my internet's getting choppy, so I'm going to turn my camera off. So to start with your learning goals. And the biggest thing there is to differentiate outcomes from means. Meaning, what that means is, let's not talk about, yeah, we just want them to complete this assignment. Okay, what is the outcome that you want from this assignment? What is it that you want them to learn? And once you have that, it's so easy to apply the UDL framework into what you're actually doing without really having to revamp. So consider ways to stimulate interest and motivation. Once you figure out the outcome, that comes pretty naturally and easy, because there are so many tools out there that we're aware of that can get students into the lesson once they know what they have to do. And then on top of that, once they know that they'll have options, they become more engaged. So multiple means of representation. How are we going to provide options for students to access the needed information? Different ways other than the typical way that we normally provide, which is usually just a link to something. And output, how are they going to show what they've learned? What are ways that they can do that besides just completing an assignment? So multiple means of expression, engagement, representation, all of those fancy words to say. Let's just give them options and make it easy on yourself as a teacher also. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff, who will share some of those tools.
Okay. Thanks, Denise.
Sure.
Hopefully everybody can see my screen just fine. The first thing that I want to cover before we get into showing you some of these apps and extensions for you to use as a teacher as well as for students to use is just going over some of the Google terms themselves. When we're talking about the Chrome, we're talking about the web browser, Chrome web browser. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that. When it comes to the apps or applications, think of the Google Suite, Google Docs, Google Slides, things like that. Websites really is what they are. And then extensions and add-ons that we'll be covering a little bit today are just things that are going to enhance those applications. And when it comes to your extensions, here I am at the Chrome Web Store. At the Chrome Web Store, I find extensions. So let's say I wanted to add, add one like Read and Write for Google that we talked about at the first session today. I could type in Read and Write, would take me there. And if I hadn't added it, I would add to Chrome and it would add that to my account. So again, once it's added to your account, any device that you're on, you will see those extensions there. Other than an iPad, it just works different on iOS devices. You can't run extensions on iOS devices. You have to run applications. So it's different there, but on a Chromebook, a Mac, or a PC, within your Chrome browser, you can add these extensions. And they sit up right here at the top. For the most part, your extensions you will find there. And there's tons of extensions. Most of them are free. We'll be talking about some today that are freemium. Parts are free and parts are paid. So just wanted to cover those areas really quick. The other one that we'll be talking about a little bit are called add-ons. Here I am in a Google Doc. You can have add-ons within the Google Suite, different applications. And here I am here. If I go, may not even notice this right here, but if I click on add-ons, get add-ons, I can go here and get more add-ons that will, again, enhance what I'm doing in my Google Docs or within Google Slides that I'm going to show you later when there. So just wanted you to be aware of that if you weren't already. Okay, so within your slide presentation, there's some examples of different workflows, completing a worksheet, multi-paragraph composition. So I'm going to go through some different apps and extensions to show how you show them to you. And then really, even though in the examples we've given, we've put them under representation or expression, you might find they'll go in different places as you work with your students, places that'll work for you, again, how they will work for your students. So the first one that I wanted to show you was Cami. Now Cami, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my Google Drive and I'm gonna open up a PDF. So I'm gonna click on a PDF, and you notice at the top here, it asks me what I want to open this with. So I'm going to click on open with, and here, the first one on my list is Cami. Again, that's an extension I've added. So I'm going to click on Cami. And what it does is it allows me to take that PDF. So an example might be you have a worksheet that you would want your student to fill out. Let's say they can't use pen pencil, so we want to make it accessible to them. So we scan it into our Google Drive. We share it with our student. If they have the Cami extension, which is free, they open it like I did, and then by using the features that are built into Cami itself, I can then type on my PDF. So now all of a sudden, instead of me having to be using only pen pencil, I can now start to annotate on my PDFs. So it's a really nice way to make a worksheet accessible to your students. It also have other tools, drawing or markup tools. So if you wanted to draw on here, let's say you had a matching thing, they could draw and match as well on here to match something to something else. If you wanted to do that, it's there. One of the nice features that is a fairly new feature within that is if you go up here to the menu, there is this feature called OCR for scanned PDFs. So let's say you do as I mentioned earlier, you scan a worksheet, I save it as a PDF, I upload it in my Google Drive, and if I scan it, it now becomes accessible text. On here, I can't necessarily, if it's not accessible text, highlight the text. But if it's accessible, I can use reading features like a read and write Google to now read my document if it's accessible text. This one here, actually, I believe is accessible text. So
loading +sign
there,
page.
it starts to read the text. But if it wasn't, that would turn this document into accessible text and allow me to use things like read and write to read my documents. Hope that makes sense to you with the whole idea of OCR and scanning text. But that's built right into the Cami to be able to take a document and make it and scan it OCR wise and make it accessible text. So Cami is a real nice extension. The next one I want to show you is an extension called Visor. So let's say I am here, move this out of the way. I'm in a website and I'm going to be reading a website and I want to be able to focus on it. Again, I don't know if you are familiar with the website Tween Tribune. It's a really nice website for providing text in multiple reading Lexile levels. So I'm going to open this first one up. And you notice here, it allows me to do it set it at different Lexile levels for the students that I'm working with. But let's say I have the student that I'm going to have read this website, and I can have them go up to extension called Visor. And if I click on Visor, it provides this window that might help, again, whether I'm back on reading a document or on a website, reading it and let me focus in. And within Visor, it does allow you to change the color of the tinting, to change the width of this as I'm reading. So again, the student might be able to use that to focus, or if you're presenting something and let's say I'm back here and I'm presenting this to my students, I'm talking it through with them in a document, I could highlight as I'm reading through this with them and wanting them to focus. So that extension is called Visor, again, free from the Chrome Web Store. Okay. The next application I'd like to show you is called Vocaroo. Vocaroo.com. What this website allows me to do is to make recordings. So here I could record myself, and super simple to use. I just click on here and I record myself. And once I'm done, if I like what I record, I click on save and share, and it takes that recording and it allows me to create a QR code or gives me this link that I could put into a document. So let's say I wanted to use this to give directions for my student. So I might be able to just take a copy of this. I'm going to copy it, and let's say I put it on a document that I've shared with my students. It now becomes a link that they could click on, and whatever it says, maybe it said something like, this is what I want you to do for this assignment. They could click on here. Super simple to use. I just click on here and I record myself. Okay. You got the idea of how that works, but it might be a really nice way for you as a teacher to be able to add directions on how to do an assignment. Like I said, it also allows you to create a QR code, which you can embed as well, that they could scan with a QR code reader. Most people have that. It's built right into your iPhones now. When you open up your camera app, you just hold it over the QR code and it opens up a link. So that might be another option that you could use for getting recorded messages to your students. Obviously, your students could use it also if they couldn't type or write or wanted to get a recording though of you of their work, they could record themselves, or might be brainstorming for themselves when they're trying to put a multi-paragraph paper together. But again, make use of the recording of Vocaroo. You may be thinking how long of a recording it does. As far as we know, you can go as long as you want. We've heard that there's no limit to how long of a recording that you can make. So that's Vocaroo. The next thing I want to show you really quick why I'm in Vocaroo is an extension called Screencastify. It's an extension. It sits up here with my extensions. I'm going to click on Screencastify. And Screencastify is the ability to create a recording. It is free. There is, as you can see on here, a 5-minute limit for the free version of it. I can have my microphone, I'm going to have it on because I'm going to talk as I do a video. I can also have embed the webcam. I can have myself show up on the screen. I'm not going to do that. I could just go webcam only if I just wanted to use the webcam and do a short video of myself. I'm just going to use the desktop though, and I'm going to click record. So then it's going to ask me what I want to record, and I'm just going to record my entire screen just here for here. Gives me a countdown. Okay, so now I start recording. It is recording my screen. So down here at the bottom left, you note it's got some different tools. So I might want to use one of those tools as I'm talking through with the student. Let's say I'm trying to teach them Vocaroo. Okay, if you're going to be using Vocaroo, actually, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I'm starting now. Okay, student, I'd like you to use Vocaroo to make a recording. To do so, you would start here, you would click on that, and then go ahead and record your message. Click on this, and then if you're happy with your recording, save and share. Here you could create a QR code, or you could copy this link, okay, and then I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, and then here's my recording. And you can left, you note it's got some different tools. So I might want to use one of those tools as I'm talking. So now, once I have that, I could share that with my student, and they might have that short video that might help them. Again, if you're doing something within an application or within an assignment, to provide them that kind of feedback that they might need. Again, they could use it for themselves. And you, as again, we go through these things, think of different ways that you as well as your students could use these applications and extensions. So that is Screencastify. All right, the next one that I am going to show you is back on our Google Doc. And you that were not at our first session, we talked about what's called Read and Write for Google. It's a freemium extension, and it sits up here. It's this purple puzzle piece, so parts are free, parts are paid. Let's say you have shared this document with a student. They have difficulty reading. They could use the Read and Write extension. Open up here. Here's the toolbar. This is the full paid version. So they're not going to have access to that. As we mentioned in our first session, all the students within Carlsbad have access to the free version of Read and Write for Google. Within the free version, one of the options is what's called text-to-speech. So I would like it to start reading here. I want to have this read because, again, I'm having difficulty reading it.
Shaking off from my spirit what must have been a dream.
It's a really great text-to-speech tool. It highlights as it reads, highlights the words, highlights the sentence. I can go over here to the far right and click on options, and this is where I could change the voice, male, female, different accents. I can change the rate of the voice as well. So that is Read and Write for Google. The text-to-speech, again, the free version. The only parts on here that are free are the play, pause, stop, the translator, and this other one down here, practice reading aloud. And we're going to be sharing the video from the our first session on Read and Write that shows how all these tools work. And so you'll be able to have a video of that as well. We'll be getting that out to the Carlsbad teachers. So that's Read and Write Google. Any questions so far, Denise, on the applications or extensions that I've shown?
No questions yet.
Okay, great. The next thing I'd like to show you is I'm going to go back to this website. And often, like even on this one, it can be distracting with all these different ads. Often if you get to websites, they have ads that pop up. There's an extension up here that's called Magic Scroll. When I click on Magic Scroll, it actually takes this website and turns it into more looking like a book. And again, it gets rid of all those distractions. So that might make it, as Denise talked about earlier, get rid of the barrier and make it more accessible for the student here. So let's see if I do that. So
Status, special priests could preserve you for all eternity.
So as you saw there, I'm using multiple extensions together. I used the extension that I right up here, Magic Scroll Web Reader, to make the page more like a book. And then I use the Read and Write Google extension on top of that to read the text. Again, trying to get rid of the barriers and make it more accessible to the student. Then I just click up here on the left
Hey, Jeff.
to get back to my normal. Yeah,
Oh,
Denise.
I was gonna say, before you click out, if you click back in, I was wondering what the little tools are for below the spot where you clicked out.
Like right here?
Yeah.
Thanks, Denise. So here I can change the font size of the text, and I can also change the color scheme of the text. So I'm glad you showed me that, Denise, or reminded me about that. So again, another way to get rid of the barriers. Okay. This one here, if there's any problem. So that's what those are. Okay. Any more questions on anything so far, Denise?
Nope, not yet. I'm answering. Actually, just a second. So I was starting to type a response, but I'll say it out loud. Someone received an error trying to install Read and Write. It says app not whitelisted for installed by admin. Sometimes that's a person-by-person error, and we just need to let the tech person know that it's happening. But you should be able to install it once that's fixed. And then the next question is, our students will need to download these extensions to be able to use them at home, correct?
And yes, that's the case. That's a great question. So yeah, they have to be added to the person's personal Google account. So they would have to go to the Chrome Web Store themselves to add it to their account, unless you were able to get into their account, log into their account and add it for them. Once they've done that though, whatever device they log into, Mac, PC, Chromebook, they should be able to have access to those up here, because again, it becomes a part of their account. It's not tied to the device. So that's a great question. I hope that clarifies that. And the whole idea of it being whitelisted, as Denise mentioned, for these to be added under a school account, they will have to be whitelisted. And I believe most of these have been, Denise, right? Because we've presented them before.
Yeah, we've asked them and they got the approval. So most of them should be whitelisted, but after our presentation, we'll double check.
Any more questions, Denise?
No, that was it.
Okay, great. Okay, moving forward. So again, we're just showing you these different ones, hoping that you can think of ways that they can be used for yourself as well as for your students. One thing we just want to touch on really quick, you probably all know this by now, but just the tool called voice typing that allows you to do speech to text that's built into Google Docs. When I click on that, click over to the left again there, it allows me to talk right into my Google Doc. So making sure that you all are aware of that. Don't want to assume anything. But that again might get rid of that barrier of a student that might struggle with pen pencil, as well as even typing. One of the things that has flown under the radar when it comes to the Chromebook is there's a accessibility feature built into the Chromebooks. Both Denise and I are on either a Mac or a PC. We're not on a Chromebook, but if you go into the accessibility features of the Chromebook, there is a thing called dictation, and if you turn that on, it allows you to dictate pretty much anywhere on the Chromebook when it comes to something that would take text. So obviously voice typing works within Google Docs, but let's say I'm on a web page or something, or I'm here in Cami and I want to be able to type into this text box, but let's say I create a text box, I can't use the keyboard. I could use the dictation feature built into the Chromebook to voice type into different things within the Chromebook itself. I hope that makes sense. But again, there's the limitation with voice typing. It only works within Google Docs, where the dictation of the Chromebook, that feature built into the Chromebook itself allows you to dictate in other applications on the Chromebook. So wanted to make sure that you knew about that. A couple things too, when it comes to settings on the Chromebook, this also works on a device itself, but the ability to change the size of the text on the screen. Many of you know you can go press the Control and plus key. On my Mac, it's Command plus. It increases things. Command minus makes it smaller. On the Chromebook itself, if you go Control Shift, it increases everything on the screen, including your tabs. So not just the text size, but also your tabs. Everything increases. So yeah, on your handout, it does talk about that and directions on how to do that. But on the Chromebook itself, there's another feature to allow you to increase everything on a website there when you have Chrome open. So we wanted to mention that to you as well. The next thing I wanted to show you were the whole graphic organizers. So if you had a student that was creating a multi-paragraph paper, for example, they could go here to Halt. They could open up one of their free online graphic organizers, and these are accessible and they could type right on them. So wanted to make sure you knew about that, again, to make things accessible. Some of your students have difficulty using paper graphic organizers because, again, if they struggle with pen pencil, that's not going to work for them. So this allows you to be able to present them that way in a digital format so that they can type on. So that is the whole graphic organizers. Any questions on those, Denise?
No questions on those, but another question popped up.
Here.
Is anyone aware of a program extension that creates closed captioning for a video on the web? Or perhaps if I was using Screencastify or Google Meet for a lesson, any extension that will write what I say on the screen? So initially I was thinking, I feel like Google Meet has it built in now, but on the user end of things. So the user would have to turn it on. But I'm not sure about using it as part of Screencastify. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I wonder, Denise, if they took that recording and uploaded it to YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's the other option. So if you're thinking of creating a lesson ahead of time and did that recording and uploaded it to YouTube, there are directions on how YouTube can automatically caption to save that video. So I'm thinking if you're thinking of creating a video and saving it so that your Google Classroom can view it, then that would work. But if you're thinking of doing it in real time, we'd have to think about that a little bit more.
Okay.
And are the graphic organizers already loaded into Halt?
Yes. When you go to the website, they're all here. You just have to click on the link. Great question. Thank you.
Sure.
For that.
Awesome. Okay, that's it.
Okay. The last thing that I wanted to show you, oh, actually, I do have a couple more things. One of them that I wanted to show you is, let me see here, is Rewordify. So let's say I'm going to go back to my web page here, and I have this text, and even though I can simplify it here, let's say, for an example, I'm going to copy and paste this text, And I'm going to go to the application, again, a free website, rewordify.com. And I'm going to copy that into this little box here. And I'm going to what's called rewordify the text. And what it allows to do is it takes that text and rewordifies it and takes some of the words and simplifies them for the student. So you can see here, it will read that word to me, but it's taking below here, the original text was the ancient Egyptians, here, the old Egyptians. Up in the settings, I can change how I want it to look. So here it's got the original word and then the new rewordified word next to it. But that might be another way that you could take away a barrier for a student, because then again, you could copy and share that with the student. If you knew ahead of time they were going to be reading a web page or some text, even a book. They do actually have books here, lots of books that can be rewordified, as well as public documents, Declaration of Independence, Martin Luther King's speech, things like that, that can be rewordified to make them more accessible for your students. So that is rewordify.com. So I think I've covered only one left. I want to make sure I'm not missing any. Is I'm going to now go to what's called Pear Deck. One of the ones when Denise, I did a training in Carlsbad last year at around this time, somebody brought up Pear Deck. It's actually an add-on that works within Google Slides. So again, I mentioned earlier that the Google Suite has a feature called add-ons. So if I go in add-ons, I can get add-ons. Just show you how they work. Pear Deck I've already added, but you can see all these add-ons are there that you could add in great more power or more features to your application. So I'm going to go here and turn on what's called Pear Deck for Google Slides. So this might work really well for you. Again, this is a freemium add-on. Right now, I believe they're giving the premium version for 90 days for free. But it's a really nice and quick way to be able to set up an interactive lesson for your students. So I'm going to go to I'm in Google Slides. I'm going to open up the template library. I'm just going to pick a couple of these really quick for you to just see how it works. I click on it. Puts it over to the left, adds that slide. So I'm going to go back. That's going to be beginning of my lesson. I'm going to have an agree, disagree. And obviously within that, I can add my own slides to this. I'm just not locked in this slide presentation to the Pear Deck. So I can have a bunch of theirs in it. I can have one of theirs, however you want to figure that out. That works best for you. End of the lesson, I'm going to put this one. Okay, great. So you saw how simple it is to quickly put a lesson together. I can also get in here and change the text, add text, that kind of thing for these slides. I could add a question here if I wanted to it so that they're agree, disagree. Anyway, just to let you know. And then I just click on Start Lesson. It asks me, do I want to have it student paced so that they can finish it at their own pace, or is it paced by me? I'm going to click this one. Again, we don't have a lot of time to get deeply into this, but we just wanted to make you aware, if you weren't of it, how cool it is, and that we hope that you will launch into this to just try it out for yourself. So you have your own teacher dashboard. And then there's a couple ways a student could have access to this. I can copy this link and share it with my students. I could share to Google Classroom if you're using Google Classroom. I can also have them go to this website and they would just enter this code and it would give them access to this that I had just shared. So just wanted you to see that really quick. So at this time, I am going to stop my sharing and let Denise finish out the presentation for you. She's got a couple of applications she'd like to show you as well.
I'm on mute. I just wanted to recap that, Jeff showed some great tools that can apply to any workflow. We just, like he said, created some examples for you so that you can see a visual of it. So with completing a worksheet, Jeff showed that you can open Cami and the student is able to annotate by typing and or using that dictation feature built into the Chromebook. And if you're not aware of that dictation feature or don't know how to show students how to get to it, it is hyperlinked in our handout. So you can watch a video on how to do that there. And how to use Vocaroo, whether as a teacher tool or a student brainstorming tool. And the next example was writing a multi-paragraph composition. And, as Jeff showed, some students can't even get started because the screen size is not the right ideal size for them. They can't see it, especially on these tiny Chromebooks. So showing them those keyboard shortcuts is key. And being able to change the screen color, that contrast can also bother people. And Vocaroo to brainstorm. I always tell the story of how as a paraeducator, I would work with a student and they'd brainstorm, they'd come up with these great ideas, and as soon as I walked away, they were like, I'm not writing because I forgot. So using something like Vocaroo, they can just refer back to it as often as they can. And Holt graphic organizers, I love those. You could even choose one and send the link to your students to say, this is the one I want you to use. So, and they're fully interactive. And then finally, if you have an assignment where the student has to read a selection of text and then summarize their findings, just accessing that reading material could be an issue. So all of those tools Jeff shared with Magic Scroll and Rewordify and text-to-speech gives them that chance. And when it's time to share what they've learned from those readings, they can use any of those expression tools to do so. And again, from the beginning, we talked about how we should distinguish, the means from the outcome. So what is the outcome that we want out of this activity or this learning experience? We want them to show that they're able to summarize their findings in a reading selection, and they can do that with more than just pen and paper. So Jeff already talked about Pear Deck, and I would like to show a couple other tools. And we purposely did not put them into categories because now that we've gone through that process of applying it to workflow, we're hoping that you come up with ideas and where you can apply them in those categories of engagement or representation and action and expression. So going to go to Padlet at first. So Padlet is pretty much like a digital whiteboard or digital bulletin board where you can add information. This is our Padlet account. When Padlet first came out, it was free and you can create as many Padlets as you wanted. And then they became a freemium tool where they kept parts of it free, and then other parts you have to pay for. And part of the things that you have to pay for is to have more than 3 Padlets. So if you have 3, those are free, but if you have more than 3, they cost. However, if you signed up for Padlet and created Padlets prior to them going premium, they allowed you to keep them. So that's why we have so many. But from now on, we'll only be allowed to create 3 free ones. So I'm just going to open one of the Padlets to show you ours. This was from a conference we did a couple years ago, and we were able to give our Padlet some headings, and then underneath those headings, just add our tools. So you're probably thinking you do this in different ways already. Maybe like our handout is just a list of hyperlinks, but this is just another way that you can do it where it provides a thumbnail so you know exactly what you're getting into. Let me go back here. And here is another example. And it's just pretty clean, and you can add things, add documents, and share this with students. Maybe you are working or developing a project and you want students to have one place to go to get all of the information that they need for that project. Or if you are asking the students to create something like a portfolio or sort of like a pamphlet for some kind of project, this is an easy thing to use to do that also. So those are just a couple examples, and it's really easy to make a Padlet. You can click on Gallery, and it gives you some examples that are already there that you can tweak and make your own. Or you can just go straight to make a Padlet and choose one of these templates and get started. So that is Padlet. Are there any questions about Padlet?
There was a question, Denise. Can you share Padlet in Google Classroom?
I'm not sure if you can embed it, but you can share the link to a Padlet in Google Classroom.
Great. Christina, was there any other questions? I hope you got that answered your question. That was it, Denise.
Okay. So that's Padlet. And the second tool has become one of my favorite tools, is classroomscreen.com. Now, Classroom Screen, when it came out, it was really exciting. Loved it, still love it. They've gotten so popular that they're able to create a freemium version. So it's not all free anymore, but the parts that were free before still stayed free. It's just now they created premium if you'd like to pay for extra features, and they're pretty good features, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. But it's a whole new interface. So I'm going to try to move my toolbar so I can get to the widgets at the bottom. So at the bottom, you see these little circles, and they call them widgets. And there's a bunch of them, so I won't. Thought I turned off my Teams. Sorry. There's a bunch of widgets that you're able to use to enhance your classroom screen. So the first one, as you can see my background, I selected that, and it's calming, it's beautiful, makes you feel like you're on vacation. But you can choose from a variety. You can choose from still photos or animated photos down here at the bottom. You can now upload your own photo and or just use your webcam. So that's what the background is about, and then I can click the X to get out of that. The next one I want to show you is the traffic light. So you can have your screen up for students. Maybe it's a time when they're supposed to be working independently, and I can turn on my green light. And as the students are working, as time starts to go, I can go to green, or I mean yellow, to let them know we're about to slow down, and then red means we're stopping now. So this tool it seems simple and it seems like it's just a fun tool, but honestly, there are some students who need that social emotionally, just to get prepared to move on so that there are no surprises. So this is a quick way to do that. The same thing with a timer. And the timer has fun sounds. My favorite sound that I like to go off when the timer goes off. Hopefully I shared my sound and you could hear it. But it's the Super Mario sound, one of my favorites. And you can also have a clock there so everyone knows what time it is. There's a calendar. Work symbols work great. So when we're back in the classrooms, you can change the work symbols to reflect the sound level you'd like to see in the classroom. And every time you're done with a widget, you just click on the X and it disappears. There are, like I said, I won't go through all the widgets, but there's a link on their website that explains exactly what some of these do. So, oh, the last one I'd like to share is the QR code one because it's pretty neat. It just generates a QR code for you, and you can type in whatever website you'd want the student to scan the QR code and have them be directed to. Something else to point out with the new version is it allows you to check out your screen. So if for some reason you accidentally close, you can go back and get your screen as long as you're logged in. Now to save screens, so for the next time you go to it, that is a premium tool. So I urge you to play around with Classroom Screen. It's a great tool. It's a fun and engaging tool that can enhance your virtual lessons. Are there any questions about any of the additional tools?
No questions, Denise.
Okay. And so that completes our presentation, but we also want to leave you with additional supports. So if you're interested in our department providing professional development, we do have live and distance learning opportunities via webinars that you could register for. We have a NICSE Assistive Technology PD site that has previously recorded webinars. And also, if you're interested in a training for staff, maybe you have a planning day with a group of teachers, we can be there virtually and provide training on anything that we've shared or that you're more interested in. And it's all free. It's because you're part of the SELPA, part of the 14 districts that we support. We did leave you with a template so that you can practice embedding tools using the UDL framework with things that you are already doing. And there's also this website that we've created for online learning times that has tons of resources in various areas, including more information on extensions, apps, how to use them, learning platforms. There's lots of things on this resource site that we tried to just put in one place. Oops, that's taking me to the site. And last but not least, earlier we asked if you thought of any tools. Please share them in the chat, tools that you think could also help people who are thinking of adding things to the workflow to make things accessible. If you've added any, we'll refresh this and you'll have access to it. If you didn't add any, that's okay too. And if you'd like to see what others added, we included a link at the bottom from last year. Last year's presentation, and even though it was from last year, a lot of those tools are still relevant. So feel free to check those out. Okay. Any last lingering questions before we end?
No questions, Denise.
All right. Well, we want to thank you all for joining us today.